Hi everyone, it's Team Whiff. That's Will and Tiff, but one word so it's easy to remember. So today we're going to talk about the pros and cons of buying and selling a boat either with a broker or a private party. So let's dive in.
Alright, some of you know that I previously worked as a yacht salesman, which most people refer to as a yacht broker. I sold our first boat and bought this boat as a broker, so I'm happy I was able to do that for us. But anyways, we're going to go over the good and bad of both selling / buying your boat with the broker and private party. It's going to be based on our experiences and our opinions, because we've done multiple transactions of each, and we bought and sold boats private party, and we bought and sold a boat under a brokerage, even though I was the broker for at least one side of the deal. Well, we want to share our tips and experiences with you, and there's also a reason why we're going over this topic, but we'll talk more about that at the end of the video.
Okay, so jumping right in. The pros of using a broker is that it's a standardized process. And most of the brokers know the process, how it goes from start to finish, and there's no bending of the process during this time. So if you don't want to leave a deposit, you don't get to reserve the boat and do the survey and the sea trial and the things that are required to buy a boat, period. Okay, number 2, brokers can coordinate a lot of the things involved with the deal. So each transaction's unique and might have its own set of challenges, and the broker can do a lot of the heavy lifting in that regard.
Okay, number 3 is you have that experienced mediator who also specializes in negotiations, and they make a very emotional and sometimes stressful process that much more, easier for both sides of it. If you could only hear the things that one side says about the other, half of these deals wouldn't happen. The sales and closing documents, they usually don't leave much room for interpretations on the broker side. The documents have been prepared by lawyers and approved through the Yacht Brokers Associations, and they have protections for everyone involved. The closing process is usually easier for both sides as well. The title transfer, documentation, registration, and all those things are taken care of as part of the deal. The brokerages usually have a person in-house that take care of that, or they hire a third-party company that handles the title and documentation of the transfer.
All right, number 6 is the marketing. Brokers have access to marketing tools and market analysis tools that private sellers do not. So hopefully they hire a professional photographer, and they'll pay for special ads online and in print magazines. Not magazines, newspapers. Maybe
for
magazines.
the big yachts, they get in magazines.
And they have a network of buyers and sellers usually that are at the ready. So, plus they have just industry resources to help either save a deal or have a deal run smoothly. So, for instance, they can give you recommendations on insurance or financing. Surveyors, boat yards, service techs. They can be like a one-stop referral shop for you. They have like real-world experience with many of these professionals, and so even some of them have like corporate rates for hotels or rental cars if you're traveling in and out of town, so that can be nice.
Absolutely. All right, so we are going to move on to the cons of buying and selling with a yacht broker. And believe it or not, there truly aren't many, but there's one in particular that is huge and where the majority of people's problems lie. So jumping into number one is going to be the cost. Both parties are paying that commission one way or the other depending on how you look at it. I've heard people say, well, it's the buyers who are paying it, or it's the sellers who pay it. Well, they're both kind of right. But either way, it's a small price to pay so long as the service is good. But that's where the big con comes in.
Yeah, so the service quality and experience varies greatly, as with any industry, really. So it'd be wise to check for references. I mean, and get a feel for the reputation around town. I feel like some of them should be required to wear like warning signs around their neck because it's just, yeah. So when it comes to time management and lead management, market analysis, and the communication of the whole deal, some brokers are better than others. And you really don't know until it's too late. So do your research ahead of time.
Know who you're hiring. I mean, some brokers don't even know much about the boat they're trying to sell you. Buyer beware much. There's the potential for brokers to ruin the deal due to their ego or their own selfishness. Now, while this isn't very common, I have seen this more than I think I should have seen it, unfortunately. Especially if you introduce a separate broker from the listing broker. Now, the listing broker is out to sell a boat, obviously, but they can still be your broker too. A buyer's broker, unless they're top notch, and I'm talking that top 10%, there's a chance that you won't really get much more out of them than you would have out of the listing broker. They don't know the boat. A lot of times, in my experience, they aren't local to the boat. They don't accompany you during the showings or maybe even the survey. They're just there for the ride to make a buck because you asked them for help. Or you asked them to send you boats that meet your criteria instead of you searching the internet for them. But commissions, they get split in half most of the time between the two brokers, which can unofficially impact how much you're able to get off the asking price in negotiating. Brokers are also less likely to reduce their commissions as a last-ditch effort to save the deal whenever there's two brokers involved. I had a broker who had a buyer submit an offer on my listing. Well, my seller was very difficult and the negotiation went on for weeks. They were finally $1,500 away on a $175,000 boat, and neither side would budge anymore. So I planned to reduce the $17,500 commission by $1,500. So instead of each brokerage getting $8,750 each, we would have gotten $8,000 each. I'll have you know that that broker cursed me out and said that he had no reason to reduce his commission. He pretty much told me to kiss his butt. He told his seller we denied that offer, and he proceeded to sell him other boats. Mind you, this broker did not accompany that buyer during the showings. I showed that boat to this buyer both times. The buyer flew into town both times. That broker flew into town 0 times, and he asked me to give up my time to do the courtesy showing twice, and then had the nerve to tell me that I could reduce my cut, but he has no reason to reduce his for what, $750? But I don't know what made him think that he has any say in the commission agreement we have with our seller, because that 10% is not set in stone. But here's some insider advice. Even with a buyer's broker, when it comes to that broker's pockets, the wants and needs of the buyer can potentially come second. Legally they cannot, but in actuality, it does happen. This isn't the only deal I've had unnecessarily fall apart at the broker level, but it's just one example of what can happen.
Okay, so that's an extreme, well, maybe it's not an extreme example. That's a real life example of how brokers shouldn't act. But there are some good ones, and they really should attend the survey, at least be there for the survey with you, and help you every step of the way. So, number 4. Some brokers are particular about what they list, so they might not touch boats that are over a certain age or under a certain price or under a certain length or whatever they might not like. So you might actually have to shop around for a broker to list your boat.
Alright, so some of the pros of buying and selling a boat private party, it's sort of like the broker's cons. There aren't many pros, but of course the pros are huge to some. And the first one is that you can save money. Assuming the boat is sold at fair market value, you get the benefit of pocketing all of that as the seller. As the buyer, there's a potential to save a little bit more money without having a third party involved as well. Assuming you know how to do your due diligence, negotiate, and spot a good buy.
You did great.
Thanks. I'm gonna drink on it. I'm gonna need another one.
Okay, I'll try to make it quick. Oh, wait, you're actually going?
I mean, yeah, we need a beer break.
Okay.
It's a real thing. I mean, I don't need to go right now.
Oh, okay.
But we can go whenever. I'm just gonna pause the video.
You can go now if you want. It'll
Alright.
give me time to read over this one looks long.
Beer break.
Beer break?
If you wanted this one or this one, you could have it. You can have whatever one you wanted.
Did you bring an opener?
Oh. Do we have one of those installed up here somewhere? I think there's one in there actually. I got it.
Oh yeah. You want me to reach over instead?
I'm halfway there. Oh, I'm stuck. Okay.
Be a belly. Welcome over here.
Look at this anchor. It looks like we pulled this off of like a shipwreck or something. Look at that thing. All right.
You're gonna work great. Should you wipe it off first?
I mean,
Ooh. What do you want? Kona or Cerveza? Modelo.
you know, I'll just take this one.
Okay.
Because you've had more of those than I
I'm
have.
not ready. Yeah. I turned this back on for the beer. But it's only been a minute.
It's cool.
I got a burp.
Tastes like rust.
Does it really?
No.
Oh. So number 2 on the pro list is that you control the major aspects of not only the listing but the deal. So as long as you have your stuff together, that's a good thing. So you control the photos and the lead management and the advertising, and all of that comes straight to you. So there's some really nice and good free options for advertising like Craigslist and Facebook that you can take advantage of. They're pretty powerful, I think. And yeah. Number 3, your knowledge of the boat will be really helpful for buyers. So like a good broker will go through your boat and kind of put their hands on the systems and see what works and what doesn't work. But I mean, honestly, they're not going to know the boat as well as the owner does. So that's that. All right, so moving along to the cons of buying and selling private party. So there's plenty of them. For one, it's time consuming for the seller. I mean, managing the leads that come straight to you and providing that information and all of the photos and whatever people request of you. I think there's just so many questions that most people have when they're buying a boat. So that all comes to you, and you have to manage that in a timely manner, because if not, they're moving on. They're moving on to the next boat, and you just pretty much lost your buyer. So you should be generally available for phone calls and text messages and emails from buyers when you list your own boat.
Yeah. Advertising on sites like Boat Trader, that's going to cost you. You don't have access to Yacht World. Some people don't know this, but Yacht World is exclusively for yacht brokerages. You don't get to see traffic stats on your listing on Boat Trader like, you know, some of the brokers get to do. You don't get to I guess see how well your listing is doing. You're just sitting hoping that your phone rings or you get an email that comes in. Number 3, people. People. I'm throwing this out there because some of you don't realize, you know, as potential private party sellers, what you're exposing yourself to. But I'm just going to throw it on the table, all right? People are silly. Now feel free to exchange silly with a word of your choice that insults someone's intelligence, all right? I'll leave that one to you. But between the low ballers, the no-showers, the tire kickers who just don't stop kicking, the ghost negotiators who they pretty much ghost you after you all reach an agreement, I feel like some people just negotiate for sport to keep their skills sharp. But you got the beat downers, the folks who just insult your every little discrepancy for no reason, or they're just grooming you for a ridiculous lowball offer. You've got the brokers contacting you, trying to get you to list the boat with them. And the list of different types of people that you encounter just goes on and on and on. It's a lot to deal with. You can't say what you're thinking without killing the deal, so you've got to get your game face on as you're dealing with these silly people. Just do it with a smile.
Silly people.
There's obviously nice ones too, but those aren't the ones who are going to keep you up at night. As a buyer, sellers can be rude, crazy, unprofessional, just weird, and you have to deal with them if you want that boat. When we bought our whaler, we bought it from a young guy, and I asked him, what was the fuel range on a single tank? He responded, "It'll last all season. It's a whaler, brah."
Helpful, thanks.
I mean, We needed the dinghy because our inflatable sank on us. You saw that video. If not, I'll link it. But we just drove 5 hours to see this boat, so we were buying it. But he just was not helpful.
Okay, number 4 is that you'll either have to pay for a closing agency or do all that paperwork yourself. So that can be complicated and confusing, especially when you're looking for like Coast Guard documentation and all of those. So as a buyer, it can be hard to check for liens against boats too, and you might not know you're in for a rude awakening until you go to register the boat sometimes. So number 5, you're on your own when it comes to the documentations and the agreements as a buyer or a seller. So a quick Google search will land you some results and some sales contracts you can use, but the wording in them is a little funky. It could be basic or just like one-sided and doesn't cover you in what you need. Additionally, sometimes buyers don't put the vessels and the trailers in their name immediately, and sometimes they even ship them overseas and there's no reciprocity between the registration databases between overseas, so it can leave you in some funny situations where they rack up some tolls and it's still under your name, like by towing your trailer, or sometimes they just straight up abandon the boat and it's still registered to you, so it's your boat. So yeah, ask us how we know.
Yeah. Puerto Rico and Bolivia, definitely no reciprocity, in case you're wondering.
Yeah. I mean, heaven forbid there's an accident involved. So it's really important that we've learned to make sure the buyer signs the title and that you have proof that they signed the title, like through a bill of sale or some other method. Yeah. So.
An even better idea would be to require them to do that title transfer before they leave with it, so you're definitely covered and you won't have to worry about those things coming back to you.
Yeah.
I know we didn't think we needed all of that for the small cash deals, but my lapse of judgment on a couple of these deals caused me to have to owe on some tolls and to have to pay a steep impound and storage fee for a boat that we sold. It was the Whaler, by the way, in case you're wondering, that got impounded, but the fee was half the price we sold the boat for. We pretty much had to buy the damn boat back, and the condition was worse than what we left it in. How about that? Anyways, there's no standard process like with the brokerage. Closings aside, it's easy to find yourself in some weird spots during that transaction. Examples are giving sea trials or free rides, as I call them, before people put down a deposit they don't have any skin in the game, or even a signed agreement. You can hold the boat for people before they have a signed agreement because it just felt right. When all you truly had was a verbal offer, and the list goes on. So you've got to make sure that you don't get yourself into some of those situations if possible. As a buyer, if you come across someone requiring a deposit, make sure there's an accompanying agreement. It should outline situations in which you get the funds back if the deal falls through. Some sellers may feel potentially entitled to keep your deposit for some reason, which leads us to the last con.
Sellers can be dishonest and misleading really without penalty. So it can be out of desperation, or maybe they're just crappy people, or because they know they have the power, which is the boat, they hold that power. So they can say whatever they want, and it's like their way or the highway, In another video, we told you about the seller from our other boat that basically wouldn't let us do a survey, or didn't want us to do a survey. So that's something that should never happen in a brokerage deal, but it could happen in a private party deal.
All right, everyone. That's it for the pros and cons. While the list may look lopsided and appear we're leaning one way or the other, it truly isn't. Not all of these items are weighted evenly. Maybe they're not a big deal to some people, and it all comes down to the individual and their needs and desires. I honestly thought it was going to go a different way until we started listing them out, but that's because, like I said, some of the lists that are smaller, those items are huge. But either way, I want you to tell us what your favorite part of this video or most helpful part of this video was. Let us know down below. It'll be interesting to see what you all got from this.
Okay, so earlier we said there's a reason we chose this topic, and it's not because we got the 300 likes on our insurance video. We're still a little bit away from that, so this is just a taste.
Yeah. but it very well can happen still once we hit those 300 likes. So check out that video yet if you haven't. I'm going to link it at the end of this one.
The reason a lot of this is fresh in our minds is because we're in fact selling our boat, Rumhaven.
You didn't tell me.
We've known this for at least a year, that we were going to sell her around this time. And so our videos have been slacking because we've been busy prepping her for sale and for the market. And now she's officially for sale. And we're selling her ourselves without a brokerage. And if you're interested, we'll leave the link in the description.
We didn't want to leave you all out of the loop until our storyline got caught up, because who knows when that would have been, because, you know, prepping the boat for sale really took priority over producing those videos. So we just really wanted to let you all know as soon as we could.
As far as what's next, we honestly have no idea. No idea. So if you haven't yet, definitely subscribe so you can follow along with our adventures and stay up to date. And if you thought this video was helpful, give it a thumbs up. I mean, it really helps us when you do that. And it helps us get ranked so other people can see this video that might find it helpful.
Absolutely. Since we have no idea what we're going to do next, how about some of you drop in the comments below? Let us know what we should do next. Hey, look, we're open to anything,
No
okay?
idea.
All right, one of our friends recommended that we buy a giraffe. So it's on the list, all right? But we just want to say thank you so much for watching. And until next time, remember that sometimes it's okay to be lost.
We're living proof. So get out there.
And get lost.
Cheers, everybody.